Focus on technology. Pramod Bhasin is Chairman Nasscom and President of and CEO of Genpact. Pramod, thanks very much for taking the time to join us. I'm going to skip the Infosys, HCL Technologies, Wipros of the world. And my question to you is, how good or bad is the environment for the mid-sized technology companies in terms of orders, those who depend on just one or two clients, because we've seen many U.S. clients just flip off the cliff, so to speak, in terms of recruitment costs, input costs, margins, if you could shed some light for the middle part of the market rather than just the top 3 or 4.
Sure, happy to do that and happy to be here. I think, the market has impacted everyone. I don't think it's a matter of whether you're middle or large. Clearly, it will impact those who have less money to invest in a bigger sales force and collect more dollars of revenues, etc., and therefore the mid-tier companies get hit harder. I think input costs are dropping. Costs of recruiting are dropping, costs of salaries are dropping, and therefore there is room within the margins to save money and become far more productive. And I think one of the only benefits you can think of out of this whole recessionary environment is that companies are having a chance to change their business models, perhaps in many ways, and lower their cost to a different level, because perhaps the old levels of pricing, etc., may not come back. So it's tough out there. There's no question about it. The industry will still grow, though, and I think that's the important point I would like to make is, despite the mayhem out there, this is one industry which we believe will still grow both in the short and the medium term, and the medium to long term potential remains very high.
Pramod, speaking about your own industry, actually, there was one very disturbing piece of news over the last 48 hours. Sallie Mae shipped back 1,400 jobs from India, I understand, and some more jobs from the Philippines as well. Is this the start of a trend? Are we going to see contraction in BPO?
Not at all. I think Sallie Mae is a unique animal in terms of its corporate ownership, in terms of how it gets funded, in terms of the role it has to play. It is much more a political animal and a governmental-led animal than it is, than 99% of the private sector with who are the people that we serve. So they have done this for their own purpose, I guess, to satisfy their political masters, perhaps. The thought of spending an extra $300 million or so at this point in time to take those jobs back in a time when you are running through a recession and your balance sheet and P&L are weak is not something I think many private companies can contemplate, frankly. And so, no, I don't think it's a trend at all. It's an isolated incident. And I think if you look at what Sallie Mae consists of, I think it becomes pretty apparent why they might be buying to some of this pressure.
Political ownership is actually spreading to a lot of bastions of private ownership. I mean, most of the big banks, the cities and the Bank of Americas are practically today publicly owned or governmentally owned. You think the protectionist bug will not come there?
I think there are two different things happening which we should be careful of calling it all protectionist. One, every country in the world is worried about people losing jobs. We as an industry and as a country have to be extremely sensitive to that. You can imagine what India's response would have been if India's unemployment rate doubled, right, over the period of 6 to 9 months. I think that's a natural outcome, and that will reflect in lower growth rates, and that will reflect in additional capacity, for instance, within the U.S. that can be used to serve their needs. The other side is real protectionism with laws and regulations and so on and so forth. I think the chances of real protectionism are low. I think the chances of people being concerned about unemployment and job creations in the U.S. will apply to many companies across the board. I think it will reflect in lower growth, but over time, let's remember also that, yes, you're right, the bastions of the free world.
Well, it's unfortunate we've lost that connection, but yes, what Bhasin was telling us is basically that rules and laws will not come into place that will institutionalize protectionism. What we find is only more of political noise and perhaps a stray instance of Sallie Mae, of course, which shipped back 1,400 jobs. If we can get... All right, Pramod, we lost you when you were finishing your statement. You don't expect rules and laws to get institutionalized institutionalizing protectionism?
I don't. And also for the private sector where they have got government ownership, we must remember most of these companies have massive international operations. Citibank, I think, I don't know the numbers well today, but makes as much money overseas as it does internally. So for this construct to happen where they don't do any more outsourcing or they don't use worldwide intellectual capacity where it's available to make themselves more efficient, I do think is not going to happen as easily as the Sally May incident suggests.
Pramod, it's not just IT. Many real estate companies in India, projecting that you'll continue to grow at this really fast treadmill pace, made tons of IT parks. Of course, all of them are going a-begging. Many students go into technology hoping that they'll get a job with a tech firm. My question to you is, how long will it take for us to get back to where we were in April to August, April to July last year? How long will it take for us to absorb all this real estate, absorb all these people? It's not so much whether you're growing now, but if you're going to grow at the pace you were growing at perhaps 7-8 months ago.
Yes. I think it's an important point. The real estate, frankly, is, I don't know. There has been a lot of overbuilding. I think we've known that, and it tends to go in cyclical ways all the time. And this is not a new phenomenon, unfortunately, in the real estate industry, and it tends to go from boom to bust. The shopping malls that first opened up, and then everybody owned a shopping mall, and now we have too many. The same thing has happened probably on IT parks, etc., and they've grown exponentially to a point where... And let's remember also that big companies who are the biggest users of real estate tend to do their own thing. We tend to buy our own land and build our own SEZs, etc. anyway.
So, Pramod,
I think some of that...
Sorry, I just wanted to get your estimate on what kind of growth rates do you see just in terms of revenues for the IT industry, perhaps a number, and if you could compare it with what we were doing, let's say, 6 or 9 months ago.
Yeah, I think, for the 08-09, what we've said is the growth rate will be about 16%. For the next 2 years, what we've said, it'll be about 13 to 15%. We will come out with these annual numbers for 09-10. We will come out with them. We'll do the estimates in May, and we'll come out with them in June. It will be lower than that number is what I believe, but it will still be a growth number. Therefore, for employees and students, this is still a net hirer. Despite the environment, our industry remains a net hirer and will remain that way. When will this come back to its former levels? I frankly think the bottom has been reached across the world. That is just a very personal view. I think the world has acted fast, governments have acted fast, fiscal stimulus has really happened, and I think it's reached bottom. I think it's on the way up. It'll be a gradual, slow, upward movement. So I think it could take us a year and a half, 2 years to get there, but I think we've hit bottom at this point in time.
Pramod Bhasin, thank you very much for joining us. Do appreciate it.